WagerTalk TV is back, and I am Kelly in Vegas. I am joined today by one of our hottest college football handicappers, Ralph Michaels. Ralph, upcoming third season here at WagerTalk for football. Tell our viewers what you did prior. I know from just hanging out with you in the green room, you've got a pretty impressive resume.
Well, you know, Kelly, WagerTalk, it has been great for 2 years. And prior to that, I really don't have a football history handicapping. People are familiar with Cal Sports and college hoops. But I spent over 15 years as the general manager of Phil Steele Publications and North Coast Sports. So those that gamble are very familiar with the Power Sweep or Power Plays newsletter. Those that aren't, I'm sure, are familiar with the Phil Steele College Football Preview. So that's all my efforts whenever I was working at North Coast and for Phil Steele went towards handicapping for North Coast and the Power Sweep newsletter. So as far as Cal Sports is concerned, a very recent resume in football handicapping, but basketball, I started Cal Sports in the late 80s.
Very nice. So prior to WagerTalk, you never sold college football. Did you ever sell college basketball?
I did. Again, as I said, I started in the late 80s. When I went to North Coast, I started Cal Sports as a side business. Back-to-back #1 titles in the 90s, and my top play was a 5% play, which matches well with WagerTalk. So that handicapping technique is exactly the same. College basketball, an incredible season last year. College football, again, the knowledge I learned from Phil and working at North Coast has translated into a couple great years at WagerTalk, and very excited about this third year here.
I'm very excited for college football season as well. Let's talk a little football handicapping here. Can you tell me the difference between handicapping college football and handicapping NFL?
You know, really, I think that people need to learn to handicapping differently. So many Joe Public handicappers think, okay, a double-digit favorite means the same thing in college as it does in the NFL. And it's the furthest thing from the truth. In the NFL, we have the 32 teams, and let's look last year from top to bottom. New England averaged 394 yards per game. Cincinnati averaged 280. That's a difference of 114 yards per game. I would compare the NFL to the SEC West from top to bottom. Your top team to your bottom team is about the same gap as an NFL team. You look at what college football did last year from Oklahoma, which had 580 yards per game, to UTEP, which averaged 231 yards per game. We had a 251 yards per game difference. Points are even more. Central Florida last year, 48 points per game. UTEP, 11.8 points per game, 37-point difference from top to bottom. Another big difference I want to mention is when you go on the road. When you go on the road in the NFL, you always have a built-in home field edge, and that's usually right around 3 points. Some people say 2.5, sometimes 3.5, depending on your situation. In college football, I go from 0 all the way to 6 as far as a home field edge goes. Penn State for a whiteout at night is by far the best venue there is. I give Penn State a 6. When Ohio State's traveling to Indiana, Ohio State has about 35 to 40% of the fans. I give Indiana only a 1-point home edge. You think you're traveling to a Big Ten venue, but it's actually an advantage. Another reason in college it's an advantage, while Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Alabama may have 120 kids on their roster, you can only travel with 75 players. That means your first string, your second string, and a few backup players are making that road. So when you have a team like Ohio State or Alabama on the road, it's actually an advantage because you're playing with your better players the entire game. Those are the situations where you get away favorites that are actually an edge when you have those better teams.
Great information. Let's kick it back over to the NFL. How has Parity helped you winning back-to-back seasons?
Well, you know, in college football, if you are -2 turnovers one game, there may not be an edge because you may have had such a gap from top to bottom. In the NFL, you have to look at teams, and teams always regress back to the mean. Top to bottom in the NFL, you may have a 17-point swing if New England's playing Cleveland at home in the right situation. And turnovers are a huge factor. In the NFL since 2015, NFL teams that are +2 or more in turnovers are 53, 276, and 7 against the spread. That's 16%. If you turn the ball over, it doesn't matter who you are, you're not going to win those games. What happens the next week if you are +2 or more turnovers? Vegas tends to overreact. They think you won that game 30-0. They think you're on a roll. There's no way you can be beat. Well, the next week, those teams plus 2 turnovers or more, 129 at 165, 43.9%. So overreaction from one week because you have a great score. The next week you get a Vegas line reaction, a public reaction, and you're down to 44%. Another is road trips. Road trips in the NFL, a 1-game road trip is not difficult. A 2-game road trip is difficult. And let me guys give you an angle. It's plain and it's simple. Week 2 in the NFL, in the last 5 years, if you started week 1 on the road and you also have a road game week 2, you are 0-12 against the spread, 1-11 straight up. 3 teams this year. Again, the situation's set. There's nothing you need to worry about happening. Bet against Kansas City, Houston, and Seattle week 2. Again, it doesn't mean they're going to be 0-3, but when you have an 0-12 angle, it's a strong thing to look at as part of your handicapping.
That's some good stuff from Ralph Michaels here. I just love it. Just for the upcoming college football season, that is my favorite sport. Can you give us a little insight?
Well, we talked about the edges and the road edges, and, people think if a good team is off a loss, that means something. In the NFL, it does. But I just want to show you guys that it doesn't necessarily dictate in college football. College football, you have to look much more at the talent you have. You have to look at the talent gap between the divisions. You have to look at the matchups. A lot of teams are in a division where there's a lot of rushing or a lot of passing. But quite simply, in college football, if you were an away favorite of 10 points or more and you lost the game, do you come back strong the next week? No. In fact, you're 14-23-1, 38% the week after losing as a 10-point away favorite. College football is week by week. There's a lot of emotion involved, much more than the NFL, so you have to always take those things into consideration. Conference home dogs the last 3 years. Each conference is different. Most of the conferences are right around 50%. The best conference to play a conference home dog of 7 or more, the Sun Belt, the last 3 years, 17-12, 58%. But on the flip side, what happens if you're a MAC home dog? How many of you have watched MAC games Tuesday, Wednesday? There's no one in the stands. Is there truly a home edge? MAC home dogs of 7 or more the last 3 years, 14-24. There is no home edge, 37%. So again, handicap the NFL and college differently. Look at situations. There's so much to look at, but do not overlap your handicapping techniques for the two. They are very, very unique.
All right, wrapping up this video, I know you have a great deal for the upcoming NFL preseason, $149, but it sounds like you have an even better offer for our viewers.
Marco and I are going to talk preseason in another video with you, but if you haven't checked out the preseason guide, it's there now. Preseason football. For those that don't know, I'm going to go back to my history at North Coast Sports. If you are a Power Sweep subscriber, you used to get preseason football as a bonus. Well, that taught me so much in preseason football. I learned great techniques when handicapping it. 25-11 the last 3 years in preseason football, 69%. 4-star plays, 12-5, 71%. 149 covers you from every football game. Kickoff next Thursday, August the 2nd, all the way through all 4 weeks of preseason.
Good stuff, guys. If you like these videos, please hit the thumbs up button, share the video with your friends, and tune in to all of our other WagerTalk TV videos.
Kelly, let me jump in for one more second. Guys, 149 is a great deal. I've got a 3-sport offer for you. If you go to WagerTalk right now, you're going to see the NFL or college football is up there for $8.99 each. I'm going to offer my college football, my NFL, and my college basketball. 3 sports, 3 complete seasons, $999 total. Everything football from now through the Super Bowl, everything college basketball from November through March Madness. It'll be good through kickoff of the opening preseason game, August the 2nd. 3 sports, 3 full seasons, $9.99.
Good stuff, Ralph.